Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Before I start this, it's a audio of a YouTube that I did on my Tony PharmD channel, so you can see what I talk about. But if you just want to hear what the questions are, I'm just going to go through them in this preview of the podcast episode. So I'm just going to read the document to you, and I'll make it as fast as possible. So for the recommender to complete, I have known the candidate for approximately blank months, the relative hours per week of our interaction during that time, blank hours. My relationship to the candidate was or is in the following capacity as faculty, preceptor, employer, professional organization, or other. Please rate this applicant for each of the following characteristics: exceeds, appropriate, fails to meet. And the characteristics that are evaluated, and 6,500 characters of comments are allowed, but writing skills, oral communication skills, leadership mentoring skills, assertiveness, ability to organize and manage time, ability to work with peers and communicate effectively, clinical problem-solving skills, effective patient interactions, dependability, independence and resourcefulness, willingness to accept constructive criticism, emotional stability and maturity, and professionalism regarding professional attire and professional demeanor. After that are the large narratives that the recommender can do, which begin with, please describe the nature of your interaction with the candidate under a period of normal workload or abnormal. What frequency or number of observed clinical activities of the candidate? The degree of independence the candidate was given. Was the independence reduced or increased over the duration of a rotation? How did the candidate's skills compare with, in order of preference, concurrent residents, peer students, or students from other colleges? Question 2. Please provide 2 strengths of this candidate and how you believe these strengths will be beneficial to his or her success in a residency program. Please provide 2 areas for improvement of this candidate and how you believe the residency program will be able to work with your candidate. Noted areas for improvement. Please feel free to address any other characteristics or observances of the candidate not mentioned previously, and the one that changes each time is blank when you do your 2nd through 12th recommendation, whatever it is. Enter any comments concerning this candidate's fit for this particular program. Comments entered here will only be provided to this specific program. As such, it will not carry forward into future references for this applicant. The most important one, recommendation concerning admission. I highly recommend this candidate. I recommend this candidate. I recommend this candidate, but with some reservations, and I do not recommend this candidate. You can find the link to that at residencyhelp.com. Just go under the recommendations tab. So here's the show. All right, in this video, I'm going to talk about the recommendations. There is complete misconception that you have no control over what someone's going to recommend, that if you just did a good job, then they'll write a great one, and if you didn't do a good job, then they might not write a great one. And you have so much that you can do to make sure that your recommendation will be the best it can possibly be. So first, just if you need help with the letter of intent, maybe English isn't your first language. It wasn't my first language, but I did get an undergraduate English degree, and I have significant professional communication and rhetoric training as a PhD student. So if you want one of the best people helping you with your letter of intent, $75 for the season, just contact me via LinkedIn, Tony PharmD. My contact information is there. But let's get on to the recommendations. So let's go straight to the actual recommendation questions. So we go to residencyhelp.com under recommendations, getting recommendations, where I have a video for you that gives you an overview about this. But here is the link to the actual recommendation questions. Okay, this is the ASHP forecasts, and you go down to reference writer resources, and here is the actual form. So first thing, I have known the candidate for approximately, and this will be 5 or 6 months probably if you're doing APPE. And then this relative hours per week of our interaction, this is kind of a trap. So what you want to make sure that you do as an APPE student is meet with your preceptor every day. Because what you don't want them doing is writing 5 hours or 6 hours, because maybe they just met with you for 15 minutes, or maybe they met with you once a week. Okay, so we want to make sure that that is the full 200 hours for a 5-week rotation. Your relationship, so as a preceptor, obviously I click preceptor, and then there's a spot for other. Now, this is where the first problem with this form comes, in that we have exceeds, appropriate, or fails to meet. So what they're asking is exceeds relative to what? So it is a completely subjective form. So one person might feel like appropriate is one of the highest they give, and maybe they give exceeds to just one candidate, while someone else says, well, I know what it takes to succeed in a residency. I've been in a residency, so I put exceeds, 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 exceeds. Okay. So what you might do is, as you're going through and asking for the recommendations, use this verbiage. Would you be able to write a recommendation where you feel that, do I exceed what is expected to enter in a residency program? Because while appropriate might be okay, if you're competing with 30, 40, 50, 60, the relative number here is going to be huge. And then as a preceptor, I'm asked to address 3 fields and include strengths and opportunities for improvement. So if you let the preceptor or you let the recommender do this, then you're in trouble. What you want to do is say, and with these 3, I felt I was especially good, so that they have food for the comments. So if you worked on a publication, then maybe the writing skills are what they focus on. If you had significant presentations, oral communication skills, if you led a group or you did things on your own, assertiveness, maybe you, by the end of the APPE, were having significant time where you didn't have much supervision. Maybe you were organizing the preceptor. This is very possible if the preceptor is a creative, and a lot of what they do is just have great innovative ideas, but maybe they're not great with the tasks and things like that. So you want to say specifically, this, in my writing skills and my assertiveness and my dependability, I felt that I was 110%. And then you provide the evidence. What you're really doing is saying, hey, this is where I might fit for exceeds, and here are what I would feel the comments are. And you're not exactly saying it, but the better your relationship with the preceptor, the better that you can go over this form and say, these are the things that I feel that I'm strongest at or weakest at. And honestly, every school should have this form as the way that a person is judged in their APPE. If we're moving to a significant number of students going to residency, right now it's only about 25%. I think it's going to be much higher this year, though. Then we should be grading our APPE students on this so that by the end of the rotation, we can say this person exceeds or has appropriate measures in these very different. And I know that APPE grading is completely different, but I think that if it matched this, it would make everyone's life a little bit better. Narrative comments. Okay, so this is where, as a candidate, we're going to give you a narrative, and this is going to go to all the ones. So even if you apply to 10 or 12, this will populate the same, and then the 2 strengths will be the same, and then the 2 areas of improvement will be the same, and then anything that we want to add will be the same. So when you're writing your second, hey, I just wanted to remind you what we did over our APPE, and you have it in order of 3 strongest qualities, narrative comments, strengths, areas of improvement, and what you have done since that APPE to improve them, then anything that makes you unique or special that you've been doing, maybe you're doing something outside. Again, the preceptor has no idea what you're doing in your next APPE. What would be amazing is if you talked about how you built upon what they taught you in the next one. So maybe doing internal medicine and then doing acute care, and showing how that internal medicine was a foundation, how in internal medicine maybe you struggled a bit with charting or something like that, and then you got really good at it. So if you're doing things in the same way that these questions are asking them, they're great. Then here's the key. enter any comments that fit the candidate's fit to the particular program. So as I write number 2 of 12 recommendations, everything else was auto-populated. All of this was done all over again, except for this one. This one is blank. So what I ask everyone that I'm writing recommendations for is please, please tell me why you're applying to that program. Because these are the trade-offs that I need to know. Okay, well, you gave up a big hospital center for a teaching program, or you went from AmCare to community, which is not uncommon for AmCare and community to both have applications or similar applications. So if you don't do that, it's like writing a generic letter of intent. Okay, you don't want a generic recommendation. So if you are someone who is reading the recommendations, or I know that many of the people that read the recommendations actually read backwards from the bottom up. Why would they even bother with all of this if this one is, I do not recommend the candidate? Okay, so just like when you're presenting a poster, you present what it's about, the introduction, and then you go all the way to the results and tell them the ending. And you're like, but in a book you don't go to the ending. Well, on a poster you do. So when somebody looks at a poster, they look at the introduction and then the ending, and then come back to, okay, what were your methods? What did you find? And all stuff. Because if the results are inconclusive or terrible, they may like, I'm just not even going to bother with it. So I'm just telling you, a lot of people will go straight to the bottom. If they get I do not recommend the candidate, they don't even bother with the rest. There's no reason to. But if they say, whoa, I highly recommend the candidate, okay. And then they're going to look at this one first. Why? Because they care about why you fit to their particular program. And then if you're not a fit to their particular program, then there's no reason to look. So they might see the introduction, then they're going to come right down here to the results, and then they're going to come down to the fit to the program, and then they'll read through all of this to see, okay, are they someone that fits? Okay, but what you want to make sure that you do is that you match, when you're asking for a recommendation, this perfectly. 3 perfect characteristics that you absolutely exceed, and comments about them and why, maybe 4 or 5. Go into the narrative of what you did during that rotation that they should put in here, put in your 2 strengths, put in your 2 weaknesses, and how you overcame those weaknesses. Address anything unusual or special about you, and then absolutely, this one's the most important, how can you make it perfect for that residency site so both the preceptor, the recommender, and the site say, yep, this is a match. Hey, thanks for listening to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast. And if you're interested in learning more about the interview process, go over to Amazon.com where you can check out 100 strong residency interview questions, answers, and rationales in print book, ebook, and audiobook.